Pretty nasty picture there, isn't it? I admit, it's not my best side. Well, that picture got posted on Facebook and a few other places by me on July 22nd this year, after I'd returned from the hospital after getting some resin burns. I explained the whole situation on the Facebook posts. Basically, what had happened was I was moving from my shop that was inside my house to another shop in another building outside my house, where the new lab is, this lab that I'm in right now. And I was moving my SLA printers. That day I got into a little bit of a hurry, which is pretty much how most accidents start. When I was moving the printers, what I should have done is made sure I removed the resin vats and resin from all of them before I carried them. And I did that on most of them, but for some reason when I was moving my Shuffle XL, I didn't check and I'd left it in there. So when I was carrying the printer, a little bit of resin spilled from the vat and started dripping out of the machine. And it got on my pants, my shirt, and a little bit on my arms. At that point, I admit what I should have done. Should have stopped everything, put the printer down, cleaned myself up. What I did do is what most of us probably would have done in that situation. I went and cleaned the printer up first. It took me about 15 to 20 minutes. I made sure I got it good and clean. It's a pretty expensive machine. That's about $1,200. Don't want to throw that away. So I cleaned it up. Did as best I could beforehand, just with some paper towels, cleaning just my arms off. I didn't leave it just sitting there. But where it was on my clothes, I just kind of left it. And it gradually kind of soaked through, of course, and made some contact with the skin. That probably made things worse for me because it was about, like I said, about 20 minutes. It was a hot day. I was sweating. I was working. And you had the resin on the fabric kind of rubbing up against your skin, creating friction, all that. So everything worked kind of against me, and it ended up getting the chemical kind of deeper in my skin, I'm sure. After I got done cleaning it up, which, I don't know the exact time, 25, 30 minutes later or so, I'd say, I went in and took a shower, changed my clothes quickly, and then went back to work. I had a lot more to do. Moved some more printers that day. Everything was fine. I had some irritation, some redness, a little bit of pain, nothing major. Got through the day. Nothing really. A little bit of redness, nothing major. Woke up the next day, same thing. A little bit of redness, a little bit of itching here and there, but nothing big. I worked again that day. I'd moved by then. Most of the SLA printers were already over here. I had to move my FDM printers, so I had to move all my Prusas and all that over. And that took me all day to do that. It was a hot day. I was sweating a lot and working hard all day long. Again, some minor irritation, nothing major, until that night. That night when I was sitting on the couch, I looked down and noticed there were blisters. There were blisters on my arms, blisters on my leg, actually on both legs, blisters on my abdomen. So, I showed her to my wife. She was worried. Of course, she wanted to go to the emergency room. I'm one of those people that, unless my leg's been hacked off, I don't go to the hospital. So I said, we'll wait till morning, see what happens, and if it's still having a reaction, then we'll go to the emergency room. Well, I woke up the next morning and it was bad. It was 10 times worse. It was on both legs. There were big, major blisters. It was on my arms, on my abdomen. It was painful, not excruciating pain, but it hurt. They were big, full blisters, and they were stretching the skin and pulling the skin away, and it was not comfortable at all. So, of course, I begrudgingly went to the ER, get there, and was seen by a physician's assistant there, and their initial response was, how long ago did you spill this? Why didn't you come in immediately? And again, it was, hey, nothing seemed off. I've spilled this on my skin before, never had any trouble till this morning, and I decided, it was worse than I thought it would be, so I came in. They suggested, because of the extent of the burns, which is around approximately 10% or so of the body surface area, that I go to the local burn center, which local burn center to us is Atlanta. It's about 2.5 hour drive from here. So we made arrangements to go down there that day. We drove down, and there I was seen by another physician who specializes in burn treatment. He said the same thing they said in the Athens hospital. They were second degree burns over approximately 9 to 10% of the body. And again, keep that number in mind. It becomes a little bit amusing later. And there were two basic courses of treatment. One was kind of you're going to do it yourself. Go home, take a shower, you're going to scrub all this down. It's going to expose new skin. It's going to be extremely painful. Every day you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to treat with antibiotics. You're going to have to get it rebandaged every day. Other option is we take you into surgery. We surgically remove all the dead skin, all the burned skin. We put a cadaver skin over the top of it, and then we bandage it. Now, I'm going to stop there for a second. I'm going to say I may have in a post somewhere before, because I've been called out on this on Facebook and on YouTube, I may have said that there was grafting involved. Now, excuse me if I got the terminology wrong. I'm not a medical professional. All I know is they used a cadaver skin. It was an overlay. It was not technically any kind of grafting. So if I use the term grafting somewhere, I sincerely apologize because again, I'm not a medical professional. I don't know the terminology that well. So anyway, back to the point. Uh, I opted for that route. I had to be put under general anesthesia for the procedure because it was extremely painful, from what I understand, which would make sense. I mean, they're scraping skin off about 10% of me. Uh, they did it that day while I was there, and then I was released that evening to go home with bandages and instructions to come back in a week to have it checked for my follow-up appointment. That night, which was July 22nd, when I got home, I had posted on Facebook and a couple of the groups I belong to on there, and also one that I run, a picture of one of my legs, along with the full description of exactly what happened. And it kind of blew up from there. People were sharing it. People were posting it all over the place. It ended up on Reddit. It's gotten a lot of views on Reddit. I don't do much on Reddit. I don't know much about Reddit, but someone told me it had over 300,000 views on there. I don't know. It's kind of weird, I guess, that my left inner thigh is making the rounds of the internet. But hey, whatever. It's the internet. It's strange. What I didn't really expect from it, I posted that on there, and I was very clear in there. I was very clear in my post that this is an accident that happened with resin because I was not careful with the resin. And I'm the entire point of the post. In fact, the last line of my post, if I read it right here verbatim, it says, "This is a fun hobby, but it can be a dangerous one. The best advice I can pass on is the same advice I give to new people coming to work for me at prior jobs. Don't fear it, but respect it." Right? I'm not sitting on here saying that it's the fault of the resin. I'm 100% saying this is my fault. I did something incredibly stupid. I spilled the chemical on myself, and rather than clean it off immediately, I cleaned up my equipment first because I was worried about ruining a $1,200 printer. Well, I know better. I've worked in the chemical industry almost my entire life. I know what you should do around chemicals, especially chemicals you don't really have a full understanding of the makeup of or the potential hazards of. You get it off you first. There's no other thing. I mean, that's the first thing you do when you get something on you. You get it off. It can't hurt you if it's not there. I made a stupid mistake, and I was trying to pass that on. Hey guys, this is what happens if you're not smart about this. And part of the reason I did it was you see all these posts all the time. People are asking about, what kind of protection do you wear? And people literally bragging about, I don't wear protection. I get it on my hands all the time. Nothing happens. I get it on me all the time. Nothing happens. You see people, I could bathe in it. Nothing ever happens. Well, maybe you can. Maybe you've been able to. But a lot of people don't understand that some of the chemicals in here, over time, they're sensitizers, and you're going to get more and more sensitive to it over time. And I've gotten it on me before too. I've had no issue. All of a sudden, I do have an issue. It can be that way for anybody. But bottom line was, my post, it wasn't to say don't 3D print, don't use resin, this stuff's too dangerous. It was just be careful. Use it, but use it correctly. Had I done the correct things, I wouldn't have had this problem. And that's all I intended by the post. But people just took it every way imaginable. I was called a fearmonger. Now, what part of that is fear mongering? I mean, that's not. I'm not saying get rid of your 3D printers because they're going to kill you. I'm just saying be careful. I'm not trying to scare people away from it. I'm just trying to encourage people that if you're going to do this, if you're going to bring this into your home, know the dangers, know how to respond to them. But that's not how people took it. I got attacked immediately. I was a liar. I mean, none of this could have happened. It was all fake. I made this entire story up. I photoshopped the pictures. I mean, you can't even imagine what was going on. A lot of people looked at the picture and they said, "Hey, that looks just like the poison ivy burn I had, or that looks like the bad sunburn I had last year, or that looks like this, that looks like that." I was like, yeah, it does. You know why? Because it's a burn. A burn is a burn to a point. I mean, it doesn't matter. I shouldn't say it doesn't matter, but despite how you got it, a burn is a similar injury. I mean, it's not a thermal burn. There was a lot of confusion about that. People thought, it's a UV resin. He must have stepped outside in the sunlight, and then the heat from curing caused that burn. Well, that curing reaction is exothermic. It does put off heat. It doesn't put off nearly the amount of heat you'd need to get a second-degree burn. So it was not a thermal burn at all. Also, if it was a thermal burn, it would have happened far more immediately. It wouldn't have been something that would happen later. It was a chemical burn. A chemical burn doesn't have to be caused by something that's extremely acid or extremely basic. It could be, something even somewhere in the middle of the scale. And besides that, the human body itself isn't neutral. We aren't a 7 pH. We're closer to a 5.5 or 6, I believe, somewhere in there. We're acidic. So I mean, that was an invalid argument, but hey, whatever. It didn't bother me, and it went on for a couple weeks. I had always intended to produce this video, have talk about the incident, talk about what happened, talk about the consequences. But when it did bother me is when somebody decided to make a video where they decided to refute my claims by doing a test where they poured resin on their skin to see if they could replicate the results. Now, also in this video, the person calls me out as being, I believe the terms he used were something like, I'm a special kind of moron if something like this could happen to me. Well, first of all, that really didn't bother me in that anybody who would pour a chemical that they don't really know much about, and it was painfully obvious by the way he did this video that he didn't know much about chemicals in general, especially this particular one, but anybody that would pour that on themselves just to see what would happen, well, I suppose he is extremely qualified to be calling someone a special kind of moron, because there's no other way to describe that. I mean, that is irresponsible activity. I don't even know what to say. It makes me mad to think that there are people that would do something that stupid to prove a point. And it obviously wasn't to prove a point. It was to generate views on a YouTube channel, and that's just absurd. But I got bothered by that because you're posting that on there, and he's posting, hey, yeah, you can get this stuff on your skin. It's not going to hurt you at all. Look, I did it, and people are going to think that's okay. Some kid's going to wander around and see that and think, oh, that's perfectly fine. Oh, that'll be pretty cool. I'll make a cast in my hand. I'll pour some UV resin on there, go out in the sun, and I'll have a hand shape or something. It's not a good thing to get on your hand. It's incredibly bad. And then he goes further in the video and tries to use an extremely unscientific experiment to prove that it's not possible for me to sustain that kind of injury, and basically calls me in no uncertain terms, comes right out and says I'm lying about this, which bothers me a little bit. First of all, you don't know me at all. You know nothing about me. I have not lied at all. Everything I've told is 100% true. I don't really feel the need to come out and defend myself against this person or any other person until he started endangering other people by posting this stupid stuff on there like, this isn't true, here's my proof. Go ahead and try to refute it. Well, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to post the medical record. I've got copies of it right here. I'll show it on the screen, but I'll post copies of the report online where they'll be easier to read. Now, I have redacted some of it. There's some information in there that isn't necessarily part of it has nothing to do with this case. I've got previous medical history on it. There's no reason you need to know my prescription history, my medical history, all that fun stuff. So I did blur some of it out, and I'm sure I'm going to be accused, as I've already been accused before, of forging this. People say, oh, you could have just typed this up, you could have put whatever you wanted on there. I didn't. You can believe what you want. I frankly don't have the time to sit there and forge medical documents about this case. The other thing that's kind of interesting in those pictures are my intake photos. At a burn center, because of the nature of the treatment, what they're doing is it's going to get better and better and better. So when you first arrive, they take pictures of everything. So I've got pictures of all the injuries. You're going to get to see those. I'm going to put them on the screen here. In fact, I'll be flashing them by when I edit this video. I'll put them up so you can see them on screen. Again, they'll be available for download. I'll put a link in the comment section. And you'll find the result on there of what the burn center said happened. What is the medical diagnosis of this? And it's right there in black and white. It says right on there, and these are the notes that were taken by the nurse practitioner, that I sustained a burn injury on 7/20/2019 to the basically there's some medical terminology here, but it's bottom extremities, abdomen, etc., from a printing resin chemical while he was at home. Okay. It's spelled out right there. I don't know what more you want to see. I'm sure people are gonna, oh yeah, you could have you could have typed that yourself. You could have told them anything. Sure, I could have. Why? What would be my point? What am I going to get from that? Again, I'm going to post these so you can take a look at them yourself if you want. The redaction, like I said, there's personal information on there. It's a private medical record. That's there's a lot of things on there that I don't necessarily want to share with the entire world. So there they are. I'm already sharing pictures of my thighs. You know, what more do you want? So what happened after that? After obviously I got the treatment done, and went home and then returned a week later. And I'll go ahead and show you the pictures from a week later of my legs and how they had progressed. Now I don't yet have the medical record from that time. It's been requested, but it has not been delivered yet. So there will be further progress. Excuse me, pictures from the hospital when I get those. There's no real reason to post those. The pictures I'm showing you now are pictures I took when they took the outside bandages off. You can see the cadaver skin on there, and that the burns are healing nicely. I was told that that it's coming along well, better than expected, and same thing. Come back next week. We're gonna take another look at them and see about possibly removing the cadaver skin and what the next step will be. I was very fortunate. I came back the next week, and they had kind of started, some of the bandages had come off on their own, which I was told to expect. And it had healed well enough that they could remove the bandages at that time. They could remove the cadaver skin and then just rebandage it. And then it became an issue then of just keeping the skin. It was new, young skin. It was easily damaged. So they were able to basically remove the bandages at that point in time, and I could continue healing without the cadaver skin on there, just with the bandages and some antibiotic ointment. It took several weeks after that and I don't want to say before it was gone, because it's still there. There's still some scarring, but I was lucky in that it wasn't major. My arms, there's very little. I mean, you have to look really close to tell there was any damage to my arms. Same thing on my abdomen. You have to look really close. Legs, a little more damage. Nothing major, just bumpy essentially. And the other thing is, I'll probably get a discount if I ever decide to go in and get a Brazilian, because I got a couple big patches where there's no hair growing. Evidently the follicles were fried by this, but I was lucky that the damage wasn't too bad, and it was in areas that were relatively easy to treat, and it's not going to last. It was a painful experience, and it was certainly an experience I learned from, but I'm very fortunate in that I don't have any long-term permanent physical damage from it. I very easily could have, had it gotten a little bit worse, had I let it sit on there a little longer, it could have been far worse. But again, I was quite fortunate. So that brings us back to, I guess, like I said, I don't feel a need to refute all these people saying it was a lie. I've posted all the documentation to it. Everything I've said from the beginning is truthful. If it's a little bit off, now I said, remember that 10% number, because I posted one place, and let me see if I can bring it up so I can read exactly what I had said. What I had said is I had spilled resin over approximately 10% of my body. And then later, when I was at the hospital, they had said that that the burns were over about 9% of my body. Well, somebody read both of those and immediately, oh, hey, what is it, 9% or 10%? Is it really that's what you're going to use to prove that I'm lying about this? You know how they estimate that? They look at you. I mean, you're laying there on the exam table. They look at you and they go, okay, that looks like it's over about, I'd say 9% of your body. They could have said 10%, and I don't think anyone would have called them on that. In fact, if you look at some of the paperwork, some of it says 9%, some of it says 10%. I think I've seen 11% somewhere. You're splitting hairs at that point. You're really looking for something to get me on. I had someone, another one of these people out there, must have just a lot of time on their hands, decided to check how long it actually takes to drive from Athens, Tennessee to the burn center. And evidently they used the wrong burn center, because she immediately sent me a message saying, hey, I know you're lying, because it takes 5 hours to get to the burn center from Athens, Tennessee. Well, it doesn't. It takes, if you Google it, it's like 2 hours and 24 minutes. And granted, 75 is never completely clear, so maybe 2.5 hours, maybe on a bad day 3. But we weren't going at a bad time. It wasn't a bad time for Atlanta traffic. 5 hours is a little extreme. But if you're going to Google me to prove me wrong, at least get the right destination. I don't know what they used or where they got it from, but apparently, my car's a lot faster than anybody else's out there, because I got there in half the time it's supposed to take. And the other thing that that really bothers me is that, you know, I've got these diagnoses from doctors who, you know, one of them, the guy at the burn center, he specializes in burns. He said, this is a burn. This is what we're treating it as, a burn. It is a burn. There's no, this might be this might be that. This is a chemical burn caused by 3D printer resin. That's what it says right there. I've got all these people that are gonna, and I made the mistake of saying, you know, I appreciate your skills on WebMD, and you correct me. I didn't use that website. I used a different one. Doesn't matter. I'm just using that as a general term. That's like when someone says, oh, I Googled something. They probably used Google, but they might have used something else. Oh well. You search something on a medical website, and that hardly qualifies you as a medical professional. And you've got the opinion of someone who is a master nurse practitioner, I believe you said. That's nice, but that person saw one picture on the internet and read the description that either I typed or your version of that description. They're hardly qualified to provide a diagnosis. They don't know any of the details. So, I mean, they can't refute or say that, you know, this didn't happen. There's no way. They don't have enough information. And if they did say, oh, well, that's more than enough information for me to make a determination, well, then there's some kind of hack. Because you said, I mean, you don't. You've got one picture. That's it. That's all you've got. Another thing that I brought up, and I put in a post a little bit later, was that, you know, even if you aren't as concerned about the physical hazards of this, which you should be, but, you know, hey, maybe you don't care. I'm going to die anyway. I'm going to go out in a blaze of resin glory. I don't care. Well, there's another side to it. There's the financial side. Now, this, and I definitely don't want it to turn into a debate about the U.S. healthcare system versus the world's healthcare systems and all this, because that's what it kept turning into in the forums and on the Facebook groups. This has nothing to do with that. Bottom line is, this was a really, really, really expensive accident. Now, even for me, I've got good insurance. I'm fortunate to have good insurance. But even for me, it's going to be several $1,000s out of pocket. I posted the first bill that I got from the burn center right after this happened. I didn't post the entire bill. Now, and that brought up some problems because people said, well, how do we know this is a bill for this and not from something else? And I said, no, all I did was post the total. I didn't feel it was necessary for me to post an itemized bill, and I'm still not going to post an itemized bill. I will post a portion of the bill showing you what it cost. Keep in mind, that's not the only bill that I've gotten for this. That's the initial bill from the burn center for the first visit. The total on that is somewhere above, it's $26,000 and some change. I don't have it right in front of me, but I'll post it here and you'll see what it is. That's a lot of money. I mean, that is a lot of money. Now, like I said, I'm insured. I have good insurance. I'm not going to have to pay most of that. I'm going to have to pay probably up to my copay or my annual maximum on that, which would be a few $1,000s. But if I didn't have insurance, maybe they're going to cut me a deal. But even if they give me 50% off, you know, you're still looking $13,000. You know, do you have a spare $13,000 in your wallet and you just want to drop on this? Think how many 3D printers you could buy with that. That was what's kind of, I don't want to say amusing about it, but it is, you know, thinking back on it, it is kind of funny. I was trying to save a $1,200 printer, and in doing so, I did something that's going to cost, in the end, probably upwards of $30,000, if not more. It wasn't a smart move on any level. Now, it's funny because when I posted that, like I said, I got a lot of, you know, people that were, how do we know that's from that and not from this, or that could be anything. Yeah, it could be. I could have made all that up. You're right. I have no real way of proving it, but, you know, take it for what it is. That's what happened. I guess the last little bit, you know, I've provided the information I've got. I like I said a few times, I don't feel the need to prove this to anyone, other than the fact that people are putting out videos attempting to refute this and saying that it's safe. This stuff isn't going to hurt you. Don't worry about it. Which is just, it's not the case. Those are outright lies, and the people that are posting those really should be ashamed. I mean, it's great that anybody can have a YouTube channel, but it's also a really bad thing that anybody can have a YouTube channel, because you could post on there and sound very authoritative and be like, oh, this stuff's fine. It's not going to hurt you. Look, it didn't hurt me. But that's just simply not the case. This stuff it is potentially dangerous if it's not handled right. And that's what I was trying to get across. It had nothing to do with don't 3D print, don't do this, you know, don't use these chemicals. Just be safe if you're going to use them. But really, at the end of the day, what it all comes down to, you know, I've posted my story. You know, To me, that's all I really needed to post. I wrote the truth. That's what happened. If you don't believe me, fine. Do whatever you want to do. I can't change you. If you're that stubborn, hey, take a bath in resin tonight for all I care. When I got called on it, and when it started getting to where it was creating a dangerous situation, I said, you know what? I'll post a little bit more information. I'll post some of these hospital reports and some bills, things like that. You can decide for yourself. Again, I suppose I could have been sitting here for the past couple of days and fabricating all this evidence. People have said to me, if someone would have posted that about me, I'd have been all over the internet the next day, right that minute, posting all this proof. Well, first of all, I've got other things going on in my life. I have a family. I have work to do. I've got lots of other things going. I can't drop everything to appease these idiots that demand this information, this evidence from me. So when I found time, which is now, I went ahead and put the evidence together for you. I'm going to present that to you. You can see it. I could have been spending the entire weekend forging all this evidence, but I didn't. I have no reason to. And that's what it all comes down to, really, in the end. What reason do I have to have made any of this up? If this is a hoax, what's my gain? Someone's not going to create a hoax just for the fun of creating a hoax, unless they have absolutely nothing going in their life. I suppose maybe they could. But, I run a business that, uses SLA printers, and a big part of my business is recommending different SLA printers and different resins to people. That's kind of what I do. So why am I going to do something that makes people afraid to buy one? I guess, the only thing, and I kind of had to get a little bit of a laugh out of this, was that, if you've seen the movie Clerks, you got that guy from the Chickies Chewing Gum Company that's going around trying to scare people away from cigarettes so they buy chewing gum instead. So maybe that's my angle here. Maybe I'm going to start an FDM printer company, and you're going to be so scared of SLA that you're just going to buy an FDM because you don't want to get burned. That's probably it. You figured me out. Now I'm really mad. So, well, that's about all I've got for now. As always, I'm completely transparent in this matter. My contact information has always been publicly available. Anybody that's had trouble contacting me, you're doing something wrong. I've posted my email addresses, Facebook information, web pages, everything. It's all there. If you have any questions about this, feel free to ask them. Put them in the comments. Put them in one of my forums, one of the Facebook groups, wherever you want to put it. Email me directly. I'm more than happy to answer questions about it. One thing I will not do, though, I will not respond to anybody else who's demanding that I provide them with further documentation of anything. I don't owe anything to anyone. I don't know who you are to think that you can come demand that I provide something. But I don't have to. I mean, my first statement should have been enough. If that's not enough for you, look at what I posted today. If that's not enough for you, well, you know what? You can believe what you want to believe. It's probably a good time to go renew your membership card in the Flat Earth Society, because you got to find some different conspiracies to worry about out there. This is not a conspiracy. It never will be one. This is just the truth. So.